The alien stared. Its eyes, luminescent and endless, tracked the human across the debris-strewn field. Every other being of its race would have fled. Every other being of its kind would have collapsed beneath the weight of hopelessness. But the human smiled. Why was the human smiling? That was the question that had haunted them since the exile began. For centuries, the once rulers of 1,000 star systems had been reduced to whispers of a dying culture, scattered across planets not their own. War had stolen their homes, disease had claimed their young, and betrayal had emptied their council chambers. Every corner of the galaxy seemed to close upon them. And yet here on this small blue planet they had found a spark. The human was digging. With hands caked in dirt and bruises forming under every fingernail, the creature dug as if the world depended on it, which in truth it did. They had come seeking allies, seeking survival. They had come seeking something beyond themselves. And all they had found was a species that laughed while starving, argued while bleeding, and dared somehow to hope in the face of annihilation. The alien tilted its head. "How can you fight what is inevitable?" it asked, voice reverberating like shifting tectonic plates. The human paused. He looked at the alien, wiped sweat from his brow, and shrugged. "Because if we don't, who will?" It was not defiance in its form. It was something messier, something stranger. It was stubbornness wrapped in fear, courage stitched with humor. And for the who had long forgotten laughter, it was incomprehensible. Night fell, thick and suffocating, and the human kept digging. Stars blinked faintly overhead, indifferent observers to the struggle below. The alien watched, its chest cavity tightening with a feeling it had no name for. The human's hands tore through earth, not for treasure, not for glory, but for a promise only it could see. "You dig as though it matters," the alien said, almost accusingly. The human's eyes gleamed in the starlight. "Because it does." It was that simple, that terrifyingly simple. They had measured hope in technology, in fleets and weapons and unyielding strategies. But humans measured hope in action. One hand, one heart, one decision at a time, and somehow that was enough. Days bled into nights, and still the human dug. Every movement, every grunt, every bead of sweat whispered a lesson the alien could not unlearn. Survival was not about avoiding death. It was about daring it, about facing it with a grin, about turning the impossible into something you simply refused to surrender to. A storm rolled in. Lightning fractured the horizon, jagged fingers clawing across the sky. The alien braced itself, expecting the human to falter. But the human laughed, a sharp, brittle sound that cut through the roar of thunder, and continued. Each strike of the shovel was a heartbeat. Each shudder of earth beneath their boots was proof of life, proof that hope, no matter how fragile, could endure. "You are extraordinary," the alien said finally, a whisper swallowed by the wind. The human glanced up, breathing hard, shoulders hunched but eyes burning. "We're all extraordinary when we have no choice," it replied. And the alien understood something it had never grasped in its long, exiled existence. Humans did not need certainty. They thrived on uncertainty. They did not wait for the perfect conditions. They created them. In a universe that had abandoned them, humans carried their own fire. That night, the alien watched the human sleep beneath a shredded tarp, knees drawn close, hands clutching a battered notebook filled with sketches and plans. Even in rest, even in exhaustion, the creature radiated life. It was a defiance that could neither predict nor control. The alien thought of its people, scattered and afraid, and wondered, could hope be taught? Could it be shared? Or was it something that had to be discovered in the marrow, in the heartbeat, in the refusal to bow before inevitability? Somewhere deep in the human's quiet breathing, the alien felt a promise flicker, a fragile, trembling flame that dared to believe survival was more than mere chance, that it was choice, that it was stubbornness, that it was courage dressed as a laugh in the face of oblivion. And perhaps that was enough. The stars watched, the storm raged, the universe whispered that this human was insignificant, and yet the alien could see something larger, a testament to what made humanity terrifyingly unstoppable. One small smile, one small heartbeat, one small act, and they realized that the last hope of their race might not be technology or fleets or cunning, but the raw, untamable essence of a species that refused to die quietly. The human shifted, muttered something under their breath, and returned to digging. The alien watched, and for the first time in centuries, it believed. They told him it was impossible. Every expert, every historian, every surviving council member of the Exile had warned him. The task he had undertaken, rescuing a fragment of his dying people from annihilation, was beyond the limits of reason. And yet, the human stood on the edge of the cliff, whined, whipping hair across his eyes, staring down at the chasm below, and considered it anyway. Why do humans insist on chasing impossibilities? The alien whispered to itself, shaking its head. Logic demanded retreat. Survival demanded caution, yet the human smiled. The cliff dropped into darkness, the valley below a scar of broken earth and twisted metal. The human's hands clenched the rope in his grip. His eyes scanned the far side, calculating, planning, doubting, hoping all at once. And still he stepped forward, one foot then the next, defying gravity, reason, and fear. "Are you not afraid?" the alien asked, voice trembling between awe and panic. The human laughed. It was a quiet laugh, raw and ragged, but it carried the weight of defiance. "Afraid? Sure, but fear doesn't get to decide for me." It was that simple, and that terrifying. They had abandoned courage long ago. They had measured risk, calculated probability, weighed outcomes, but they had forgotten that sometimes the act itself could bend reality. Humans remembered. Humans acted, and in acting they reshaped the universe. The alien followed carefully. It had never walked so close to the edge, had never felt the thrill of imminent danger paired with the audacity to defy it. Each step the human took was a lesson. Certainty is an illusion. Action is the only truth. Halfway across the chasm, the rope frayed. A single strand snapped under tension. The human froze, chest heaving, eyes narrowing at the frayed fibers. The alien expected panic, paralysis, retreat. Instead, the human muttered, "Not today," and knelt to reinforce it, hands moving faster than thought. Sweat mingled with blood, but he did not stop. Every muscle screamed, but his determination was louder. Below them, the valley whispered secrets of the forgotten. Structures once gleaming now crumbled, mechanical skeletons of an era long past. And yet the human worked as if the ruins themselves could be rebuilt by sheer will. The alien realized, with a shiver it could not name, that humans carried within them a strange defiance, a refusal to accept limits set by the universe. By the time they reached the other side, night had fully claimed the sky. Stars burned faintly, distant witnesses to the improbable. The human collapsed, shaking, bruised, exhausted, but victorious. He looked at the alien, and in that gaze was something pure, triumph born of effort, not guarantee. "Why do you do this?" the alien asked. The human smiled through bloodied lips. "Because someone has to, someone always has to, if not me, who?" The alien felt a pang it could not define. Had survived because they were clever, because they were organized, because they were cautious. Humans survived because they dared, because they refused to surrender to impossibility. And now the alien understood something dangerous, something revolutionary. Humans could be the salvation of its people, not through strength alone, but through audacity, stubbornness, and relentless hope. Days later, in the ruins of a forgotten city, the human led the alien through streets littered with the detritus of history. Every corner, every shadow whispered warnings. The human moved like he was part of the decay, a living force that refused to be broken. "They told us we were extinct," the human muttered, voice low, almost a prayer. "But extinct is just a word. Words don't bind us. Actions do." And with each step, the alien began to see it. Humans were not merely survivors. They were catalysts. They were storms that reshaped worlds. They laughed when logic demanded despair. They fought when reason demanded caution. They hoped when everything screamed surrender. At the city's heart they found the relic, a vessel of the past, cracked, dormant, waiting. Its systems were dead. Its defenses long gone. The alien examined it, despair creeping into the edges of its mind. "It's useless," it whispered. The human knelt before it, hands tracing the fractures, eyes burning with purpose. "Useless," he echoed, voice firm. "No, it's just waiting, waiting for someone who refuses to quit." Hours passed. The alien watched, helpless and amazed. The human scavenged, repaired, improvised. Metal bent to will, sparks flew like stars reborn, and slowly, imperceptibly, the vessel hummed. Life returned where there had been none. How the alien breathed. The human looked up, exhaustion written in every line of his face, and grinned. You forgot something. Humans don't need permission, we just do. It was the truth of their species distilled into a single act. Creation from ruin, hope from despair, defiance from inevitability. The alien felt something stir inside it, a fragile, tremulous belief that perhaps they, too, could rise. Perhaps their people could be saved. Not because the universe had offered mercy, but because humanity would not be. Night fell again, silent and watchful. The vessel now pulsed with faint energy, ready to carry them to the stars once more. The alien turned to the human. "Why me?" it asked, voice barely audible over the wind. The human shrugged, wiping grime from his hands. "Why not?" And in that shrug, that simple refusal to bow before doom, the alien recognized the essence of humans. Relentless, unpredictable, unstoppable. They were a force no calculation could contain. They were hope made flesh, courage made action, defiance made eternal. The first engines of the vessel sparked. The alien could only stare as humanity, through one solitary, extraordinary human, made miracles happen. They told him it was impossible. He agreed, and then did it anyway. And in doing so, he reminded the universe that nothing, not extinction, not despair, not inevitability, could hold back a species that refused to quit. The first light of dawn cut through the blackened sky like a blade. The wind whispered secrets through the twisted skeletons of the city, carrying with it the faint scent of ozone and ash. The human stood at the edge of the vessel, watching the horizon, his hands trembling slightly, not from fear, but from the weight of possibility. The alien watched him, unable to comprehend what it was witnessing. Humans carried hope like a weapon, wielded it without hesitation, without guarantee, without pause. Every it had ever known measured the universe in probabilities and equations. But humans measured it in defiance. "Do you know what's coming?" the alien asked, voice low. The human turned, eyes still fixed on the horizon. A faint smile tugged at his lips. "Yeah, I do, and it doesn't scare me." The alien's chest constricted. It knew the signs, distant engines, faint pulses in the vacuum, shadows moving where they shouldn't. The remnants of the exile's enemies were coming. They had tracked the scattered across star systems for centuries, leaving ruin in their wake. And now, the human and his small, ragged allies were in the crosshairs. "Why," the alien whispered, "why face them head-on?" The human's hands curled around the rail. "Because hiding won't save anyone. Because waiting for someone else to act, that's how civilizations die. And because I can't, I just can't." The alien wanted to protest. Logic screamed retreat, survival dictated caution, reason demanded surrender. But humans did not surrender. They acted. They improvised. They made the impossible inevitable. Below the vessel, the city sprawled like a graveyard of ambition. The human had spent days preparing, reinforcing structures, rigging energy nodes, improvising weapons from the ruins. Each step was meticulous, deliberate, but threaded with the audacity only a human could sustain. The alien followed, awed, as he moved through shattered streets, rallying a group of human survivors. "They're scared," the alien said, watching from above. The human glanced back, eyes bright with fire. "Good. Fear keeps you alive, but it doesn't stop you. I've got them thinking, doubting, but I've also got them acting. That's the difference." The alien could not understand the logic. Humans thrived in chaos. They used it, embraced it, turned it into momentum. Every failed strategy had been cautious, calculated, predictable. Humans were terrifyingly unpredictable. Hours passed. Shadows crept across the ruins, engines droning in the distance. The human moved like a conductor orchestrating a symphony of defiance, directing humans, alien technology scavenged from the wreckage, and even the alien itself into positions that would baffle any tactician. When the first scouts arrived, they expected hesitation. They expected surrender. They did not expect a human to step from the ruins with nothing but a makeshift weapon, a grin that could have burned steel, and eyes that reflected the stars themselves. "You don't understand," the alien muttered. "They will destroy you." The human tilted his head. "Then we'll make them understand." The clash began quietly, almost like a whisper. Shadows moved, metal screeched, and the first volley of energy slammed into a ruined wall. The human ducked, rolled, laughed, a short, sharp burst that echoed over the carnage. The alien's sensors picked up patterns it could not calculate, movements that probability, strategies improvised on the fly. Humans adapted faster than thought itself. In the midst of chaos, the human's voice cut through. Hold the line, move together, don't let them think we're afraid. It was not just a command. It was a statement of existence. Every human under his lead surged with renewed energy, each act of courage rippling through the group like a contagion. The alien watched in disbelief. This was not combat as the knew it. This was instinct, courage, improvisation, an unstoppable force. A young human, barely more than a child by standards, tripped and fell under a falling beam. Without hesitation, the human lunged, lifting the debris, saving the child with a strength born of desperation and resolve. The alien's sensors recorded it, but no data could convey what it had seen. Loyalty, courage, and the reckless defiance that made humans something beyond survival. They made miracles. Hours bled into night. The battle raged, yet somehow the humans held. The alien counted casualties, expected despair, expected panic, and found instead resilience. Every loss was mourned, honored, and transformed into fuel for continued action. Fear was not absent, it was harnessed, transmuted into determination. At one point, the human turned to the alien, voice ragged, eyes blazing. See that? They think they can scare us, but humans, we don't scare that easily. We fight, we endure, and when everything else fails, we hope. That's our weapon. The alien realized it had been wrong. Humans did not need technology to conquer. They did not need fleets or firepower to prevail. They needed courage. They needed stubbornness. They needed the audacity to act when the universe said no. By dawn, the enemy had retreated, battered, and confused. The humans had not won in the conventional sense, but they had survived. And survival in human terms was more than mere existence. It was defiance. The human slumped against the vessel, bloodied and bruised, and laughed. "They'll be back," he said, eyes scanning the horizon. "But next time we'll be ready." The alien approached cautiously. "You could have died." The human shook his head. "Maybe, but I didn't, and that's what matters. Every second we survive, every person we save, every choice we make, it counts. Even if the universe doesn't want it to." And in that moment, the alien understood fully what it had glimpsed in the first human it had met, the truth that no calculation could account for. Humans were not simply survivors. They were agents of possibility, defiers of inevitability, harbingers of hope. Where logic ended, human will began. Where despair reigned, human courage thrived. The first light of a new day painted the ruins gold. The human stood once more at the edge of the vessel, eyes forward, posture unyielding. He had faced the impossible and emerged, battered but unbroken. The alien followed, still trembling from the revelation of what it had witnessed. Why do you keep going?" The human smiled softly. "Because someone has to, because hope isn't given, it's taken, it's earned. And because if I stop, who will pick up the pieces?" The alien could not answer. It had no words to capture what it now knew, that in this human lay the future of its people. Not merely in strength, but in spirit. Not in weapons, but in courage. Not in strategy, but in refusal. And so, as the horizon burned with the light of dawn, the alien realized something profound. The survival of its race, the hope of its people, the defiance against annihilation, it all rested on this human. And humans never quit. The stars were silent witnesses as the vessel lifted from the broken city, engines thrumming like a heartbeat across the void. The alien sensors registered the hum, the vibrations, the faint traces of energy bending space around them. But it did not register the fear. Not in the human, not even a shadow of hesitation. "How can you do this?" the alien asked, voice barely audible over the roar of the engines. "How can you face the unknown with such certainty?" The human stared forward, jaw set, eyes reflecting the distant stars. "Because we have to. If we don't, no one else will. If we wait for someone to save us, we'll die waiting. Humans, we don't wait, we act." Action, the alien tried to calculate the word. Probability, risk, consequence, it had mastered these concepts for centuries. But humans turned probability into irrelevance. Humans ignored consequence when survival demanded courage. Humans, the universe. The vessel's interior was chaos. Systems barely repaired, alarms blinking intermittently, panels sparking with life resurrected from decay. Refugees shuffled through the corridors, unsure, fearful, some faintly resentful of the strange human who had taken command of their survival. And yet there was something magnetic about him, something primal. He was not a leader because of rank or heritage, but because of audacity, because of the refusal to accept extinction as fate. One of the younger, trembling, approached the human. "They will follow us," it said. "They will hunt us across the stars. Why do you not fear them?" The human crouched to meet its gaze, hands resting lightly on the alien's shoulder. Fear doesn't stop the universe from acting. It doesn't change the fact that we exist. What we do with our time, that's what matters, and I refuse to waste it trembling. The alien could not help but marvel. No had spoken like that in centuries. No had thought like that in centuries. Fear had ruled their minds and logic their hearts. And yet here was a species, small, fragile human, teaching them something older than reason itself. Hope was a weapon, and humans wielded it without apology. The journey through space was tense. Every sensor spike, every distant pulse could mean pursuit. The exile's enemies were relentless, their reach infinite. And yet the human moved through the vessel like it was home, improvising repairs, directing the refugees, and cracking jokes to lighten the impossible weight of survival. "Laughing now?" the alien asked, as sparks flew from a failing console. The human grinned. "Laughing always, it keeps the fear at bay. Fear is useless if it stops you from moving forward. Besides," he paused, eyes twinkling, "you ever try laughing when death is staring at you? Works better than anything else." It was incomprehensible to the alien. Humor in the face of annihilation was illogical, yet the effect was undeniable. Those around him steadied, moved faster, acted with precision born of determination, not strategy. Humans did not merely survive, they inspired. They made others endure. They made others fight. Weeks passed. Star systems flickered past the vessel's windows like broken constellations. The alien watched the human study star maps, adjust navigation by instinct rather than calculation, always scanning, always thinking, always daring. The refugees began to murmur. They began to hope, and the alien began to believe. Then came the signal, a faint, coded distress call from a hidden enclave trapped behind enemy lines, systems failing, lives fatting. Every protocol screamed to ignore it, to preserve what little strength remained. Every instinct urged retreat, self-preservation, patience. But the human tilted his head toward the alien, eyes alive with fire. "We go," he said simply. The alien froze. "You cannot, this is a trap, they will annihilate us." The human shrugged. "Then we make it not one." The journey into enemy territory was a gauntlet. Asteroids, derelict ships, debris fields. They were hazards, but the real danger was anticipation. The human guided the vessel with hands steady and heart unyielding, speaking softly to those around him, calming fears with words, laughter, and an unshakable certainty. When they arrived, the enclave was on the verge of collapse. Systems offline, energy failing, despair palpable in every corridor. The human moved like a force of nature, rallying the trapped, improvising repairs with alien technology, and orchestrating an evacuation that no mind could have conceived. "You risk everything," the alien protested, scanning the perimeter for incoming threats. The human's eyes met its own. "Everything, maybe, but if I don't, they're already lost. I can't live with that, we can't." And so, against logic, against probability, against fear, they succeeded. The enclave was freed. Lives were saved. The human smiled, bloodied and exhausted, but unbowed. And the alien could only stare, stunned, witnessing once again the fundamental difference between and humans. Humans did not wait for certainty. They did not wait for hope to arrive. They created it, carried it, and demanded the universe bend around it. In the quiet that followed, the human leaned against a console, catching his breath. "Every life we save is a statement," he murmured. "Every time we act when everyone says we can't, it's proof. Proof that we're still here. Proof that we matter. Proof that extinction isn't a sentence, it's a challenge." The alien recorded it all, etching the lesson deep into memory. For centuries, its people had known despair, had measured survival with tools, with calculations, with cold logic. And yet here, humanity demonstrated something older, fiercer, more indomitable, the refusal to bow to inevitability. The stars outside the vessel seemed to pause, as if acknowledging it. The human, tiny, fragile, laughably mortal, had carried not just hope, but inspiration. The alien could feel it radiate from him, infecting every aboard. Even it, a being of reason and centuries of experience, could not resist it. One of the refugees, voice trembling, asked the human why he continued to risk himself. The human smiled, brushing grime from his hands. Because someone has to, because hope doesn't exist unless we make it. Because if we stop, then who? And in that moment, as engines thrummed and stars stretched into motionless light, the alien understood fully. Humans were not merely survivors of their world. They were forces of change, defiers of inevitability, catalysts for the impossible. Where others saw doom, humans saw opportunity. Where others surrendered, humans acted. And where others would falter, humans persisted. The vessel accelerated toward the next challenge, carrying life, hope, and the stubborn, relentless spirit of humanity across the void. And somewhere deep in the alien's mind, a realization crystallized. The survival of its race, the rekindling of its people, the defiance against extinction, all rested on this human. And humans never quit. The vessel sailed through the void, silent except for the hum of its engines and the occasional crackle of a failing console. The alien watched the human from across the corridor, nodding the lines of exhaustion etched into his face. For weeks, they had been on the run, navigating a galaxy that seemed determined to erase both human and alike. Yet still, the human moved forward, unbroken, unstoppable. "Do you ever sleep?" the alien asked, voice cautious. The human shook his head, brushing dirt and blood from his hands. "Sleep is for people who have time to worry about themselves. We don't have that luxury." The alien understood the logic, not the reasoning, the raw audacity. Humans refused to let circumstances dictate their actions. Every decision, every step was carved from necessity and defiance. And that, the alien realized, was their strength. Then came the warning. A sensor spike, faint at first, then undeniable. The enemy fleet had located them. Not a single ship, but a coordinated armada, systems tuned to hunt every signature they carried. The refugees scattered, panic flickering across their faces, and the human simply smiled. "They're coming," the alien said, alarm lacing its tone. The human's grin widened. "Good, let them." The alien recoiled. Good, this was not good. Survival demanded caution, retreat, concealment. But humans thrived in impossible situations. The human turned to the crew, energy sparking in his eyes. "Listen to me," he shouted. "We are not hiding, we are not running, we fight. We fight smart, we fight hard, and we fight together. We survive because we refuse to quit." And they did. Systems were overhauled with scraps, defenses improvised with whatever the vessel contained. The alien watched, awestruck, as humans coordinated a strategy that no calculation could anticipate. Shields faltered, engines groaned, but every human aboard acted with a single-minded purpose. They improvised, they adapted, they refused to be defeated. The first wave struck. Explosions rippled through space like lightning tearing across the void. The vessel shuddered under the impact. The alien braced itself, expecting catastrophe. But the human, he laughed. A short, sharp laugh that cut through alarms and fire. "Too slow," he shouted, directing the human crew with impossible precision. "Use the debris, flank them, don't let them think they control the field." The alien could not follow the calculations fast enough. It tried, but humans didn't fight by numbers or equations. They fought by instinct, courage, and unrelenting defiance. Every maneuver, every counterattack was a lesson in chaos mastered. In the corridors of the ship, the young trembled as alarms blared. Fires erupted in isolated sections. The human moved through them, hands steady, voice calm, a touch here, a word there, saving life after life. One by one, he pulled people from the flames, lifted debris, stopped bleeding. And every time he looked up, eyes blazing, and grinned. "Fear is useless if it stops you from moving," he said to one of the younger survivors, a child clutching a wounded sibling. "Use it. Let it make you sharper, faster, stronger, and then act. Always act. The alien realized something vital in that moment. Humans did not merely survive. They transformed survival into artistry, courage into strategy, fear into fuel. Logic could not predict them. Probability could not contain them. They were a force the universe had no metric for. Hours passed. The vessel took damage, but every human act repaired, adapted, or countered. They turned scraps into weapons, debris into shields, fear into resilience. And yet, amidst the chaos, the human remained steady, an anchor in a storm no mind could navigate. At one point, a flare of energy hit the engine core. Sparks rained down the corridor. The vessel shuddered violently. The alien froze. The human did not. Kneeling, hands pressed against the failing conduit, he rerouted energy with ingenuity the alien had never seen. Pain etched across his face, sweat and blood mixing, but he did not stop. "Not today," he muttered. And somehow it wasn't just a phrase. It was a declaration, a philosophy, a challenge hurled directly at the universe. By the time the enemy, battered and confused, the vessel was, but the humans were alive. Exhausted, yes. Bruised, yes, but unbroken. And the alien understood fully that this was not luck, not chance. This was human will, raw, untamed, unstoppable. Later, in the dim quiet of the ship, the human sat alone, staring at the stars. The alien approached, hesitant. "You risked everything. Why?" The human's eyes were steady, reflecting a galaxy of possibilities. Because hope isn't given, it's earned. Every choice we make, every act of courage, every life we save, it's proof. Proof that we exist. Proof that extinction is a challenge, not a sentence. And if I stop, who will keep proving it? The alien felt something it had not felt in centuries. Awe, reverence, understanding. Humans were not bound by probability. They were not constrained by fear. They were, in essence, unstoppable. And now, the survival of its people, the rekindling of the exile, rested on this fragile, extraordinary species. And humans never quit. As the vessel moved through the void, engines groaning under stress but alive, the alien looked back at the human. The small figure, bloodied, bruised, yet unbowed, carried within him a force older than any weapon, stronger than any fleet. The relentless, defiant, untamable spirit of humanity. Somewhere in the cold vastness of the universe, the enemy fleet regrouped. But the human had already planned for it, already acted, already won, not because the universe allowed it, but because humans refused to wait for permission to survive. And the alien finally understood. The universe had never seen anything like them. The void outside the vessel stretched endless and indifferent, a canvas of stars indifferent to survival or hope. Inside, the hum of the engines carried a rhythm that felt almost alive, a heartbeat in the belly of a wounded ship. The human walked the corridors, hands brushing over scratched panels, eyes scanning the faces of the refugees. Each one looked to him not just for orders, but for reassurance, for proof that the impossible could still be achieved. "Do you ever wonder why we fight?" one of the younger asked, voice trembling with exhaustion and awe. The human crouched to meet its gaze, face streaked with sweat and grime, eyes blazing brighter than any star outside. "Because if we don't, someone else will, and maybe they won't. Maybe no one else is brave enough, but bravery doesn't wait for permission, it acts, it endures, it survives." The alien watched silently, recording every word, every gesture. It had catalogued centuries of wisdom, strategy, and survival, yet it had never seen courage like this. Humans didn't just survive, they rewrote the rules of survival itself. Then came the signal, not distant this time, but immediate, urgent. A fleet far larger than anything they had faced before, bearing down with precision, intent, and malice. Their enemies had learned, adapted. They were coming not to chase, but to end. The human's eyes narrowed. They think they can intimidate us. They think we'll retreat. They're wrong. The alien felt a cold wash of dread. This was beyond probability, beyond logic, beyond reason, but the human didn't hesitate. He moved among the crew, assigning tasks, improvising defenses, creating contingencies where none should exist. And all the while, he smiled. The first wave hit with overwhelming force. Explosions rippled across space, shattering debris into the void. The vessel shuddered. Alarms screamed. And still, the human acted with the calm of someone dancing on the edge of inevitability. He dodged, improvised, commanded. He was everywhere at once, a storm of courage that could not be measured. "Focus fire on the energy nodes," he shouted, voice cutting over the chaos. "Use the debris as shields, don't let them predict us." The alien tried to calculate the outcomes, to predict, to suggest retreat. But the humans moved too fast, adapted too quickly. Every calculation it made crumbled under the audacity of instinct, courage, and sheer will. In the corridors, fires erupted, systems sparked, and yet the human moved from person to person, saving lives, patching wounds, reinforcing weakened structures. Every act was both survival and defiance, a statement that extinction would not claim them quietly. A young human, no older than a child, tripped under falling debris. The human lunged, lifting the weight with a strength that belied exhaustion. "Not today," he said, eyes burning with resolve, and somehow the child smiled, hope renewed. The alien understood something profound. Humans were not just survivors. They were agents of defiance. They took what should have been hopeless and made it meaningful. They carried courage like a weapon, wielded hope like armor, and turned every setback into momentum. Hours passed in a blur of fire, energy, and determination. The fleet, larger and more organized than ever, faltered against improvisation, against audacity, against raw, untamable will. The human orchestrated an impossible dance of attack and defense, each move calculated by instinct, sharpened by necessity. At one point, the vessel's core threatened to overload. Energy surged, systems failed. The alien froze, expecting catastrophe. But the human crouched over the failing conduit, hands moving faster than thought, rerouting power, reinforcing structures, speaking softly to himself, almost like a prayer. "Not yet," he whispered, "not today." And the impossible became possible. The core stabilized, engines roared, and the fleet recoiled in confusion. The alien stared, awestruck. Every had known fear, every had known despair. But no had ever known this. Humans did not surrender to fear. They transformed it into fuel. By the time the enemy, battered and bewildered, the vessel was, the humans exhausted yet unbroken. They had survived the impossible not because of luck or calculation, but because of choice, because of courage, because of relentless, stubborn, untamable will. The human leaned against a console, chest heaving, bloodied and bruised, and smiled faintly. "They'll be back," he said, "but next time we'll be ready." The alien approached, hesitant. "You could have died, all of you could have died." The human shook his head. "Maybe, but I didn't, and that's what matters. Every second we survive, every life we save, every act of courage, it counts, even if the universe doesn't want it to." The alien looked around at the surviving, at the makeshift crew of humans and refugees, at the vessel battered but still alive. And it realized something it could never have anticipated. Survival was not just about preservation. It was about defiance. It was about will. It was about the refusal to accept the universe's verdict without a fight. Humans didn't just endure, they challenged, they reshaped. They became the improbable force that no calculation, no fleet, no history could contain. The human turned to the alien, eyes steady. "Do you see it now?" he asked quietly. "This is who we are, this is why hope matters, this is why courage matters, because the universe doesn't hand it to you, you take it, you earn it, you fight for it." The alien nodded, unable to speak. For centuries, it had cataloged the rise and fall of civilizations, measured the probabilities of survival, calculated outcomes to infinity. And now, for the first time, it understood the truth. Humans were not just survivors. They were defiance made flesh, courage made action, hope made unstoppable. As the vessel sailed through the void, engines humming against the black, the alien felt a quiet certainty. The survival of its race, the rekindling of its people, the defiance against extinction, it all rested on this human. And humans never quit. The enemy fleet loomed on the horizon, a dark tide of steel and fire stretching across the stars. The refugees clung to the vessel, fear etched into every face, every tremble. And the human walked the corridors with steady steps, eyes ablaze, a smile flickering even under exhaustion. "They'll destroy us," the alien whispered. "You can't survive this." The human paused, looking toward the stars as if weighing the universe itself. "Maybe, But if we don't fight, we're already dead, and I refuse to die without making them pay for every life they try to take. Every time they think they've won, they forget. Humans don't quit. Ever. The alien felt a shiver it could not name. Humans didn't calculate survival, they created it. They didn't wait for hope, they forged it in the fires of impossible odds. And now, the very survival of the race depended on one human, audacity. The vessel shuddered as the first salvo struck, tearing through space with destructive precision. Systems failed. Sparks danced across the corridors. And still, the human moved with calm, decisive purpose, directing humans and alike with impossible coordination. "Focus fire on the lead ship," he shouted, voice sharp and clear over the roar. "Use debris for cover, don't let them flank us." The alien tried to process it. Probability calculations crumbled in the face of instinct, courage, and raw, unrelenting will. Humans didn't fight by odds, they fought by resolve. Every maneuver was unpredictable, every counterattack instinctual. Every act of defiance became a weapon no enemy could anticipate. In the middle of the chaos, a younger human tripped, falling beneath a fragment of twisted metal. Without hesitation, the human lunged, lifting the debris with a strength born of desperation and determination. "Not today," he muttered, eyes blazing. The alien realized that courage in humans wasn't absence of fear, it was mastery of it. They turned terror into strategy, panic into fuel, and hopelessness into opportunity. They did not merely survive. They reshaped reality with sheer defiance. The battle raged for hours. The enemy fleet, confident in their superiority, began to falter. The humans used debris fields, improvised weapons, and audacious maneuvers to turn the tide. The alien watched in awe as the human orchestrated impossible strategies on the fly, turning scraps into shields, fire into cover, chaos into precision. By the time the last wave, the vessel was battered but alive. The human stood on the bridge, chest heaving, blood and grime streaking his face, eyes shining with exhaustion and triumph. The alien approached, voice trembling. "You risked everything, why?" The human turned, shoulders squared. "Because hope isn't given, it's earned. Every act of courage, every life we save, it counts. Extinction isn't a sentence, it's a challenge, and I refuse to stop until we've proven it." The alien felt a realization settle deep into its core. Humans did not exist to follow the rules of the universe. They existed to defy them. Their audacity was unstoppable, their courage immeasurable, their will absolute. Where logic demanded caution, humans acted. Where probability predicted failure, humans created victory. Later in the quiet aftermath, the human walked among the refugees, checking on the wounded, offering words of reassurance, a gentle hand here, a soft laugh there. The alien observed, stunned. Even in exhaustion, even in the face of near-certain annihilation, humans inspired, healed, and endured. They were not merely survivors, they were catalysts, beacons of defiance against a universe that sought to extinguish them. One of the young, voice trembling, asked why he continued to risk himself when the odds were impossible. The human smiled, brushing dirt and blood from his hands. "Because someone has to, because courage doesn't wait, because hope isn't handed to us, it's claimed. And if I stop, who will pick up the pieces?" The alien watched, understanding finally dawning. Survival wasn't about fleets or calculations. It wasn't about perfection or inevitability. It was about will, courage, and the audacity to act when the universe demanded surrender. Humans embodied that will. They were unstoppable because they refused to quit. The stars outside burned silently, indifferent witnesses to the struggle within the vessel. And yet, the human moved as though the universe itself would bend to his determination. Every choice he made, every act of courage resonated through the ship, infecting every with hope they had long thought lost. As the vessel drifted toward a temporary haven, the alien reflected on what it had witnessed. Humans were not measured by strength alone. They were measured by the refusal to bow to despair, by the courage to act against impossible odds, by the spark of hope that no darkness could snuff out. The human leaned against the vessel's rail, staring into the infinite expanse. "They'll be back," he muttered, "but next time we'll be ready, we always are." The alien realized then that the survival of its race, the rekindling of its people, the defiance against extinction. None of it rested on weapons or fleets or calculation. It rested on humans, on this human, on the audacity, courage, and hope that refused to die. And in that moment, the alien understood something it had never fully grasped. The universe could try to erase humanity. It could try to crush it beneath impossible odds. It could do everything to bend reality to its will. But humans never quit. And one human, standing battered yet unbowed, smiling against the impossible, could change the fate of worlds. The vessel drifted in silence, engines thrumming like a heartbeat against the void. Outside, the stars were cold and indifferent, endless witnesses to survival and sacrifice. Inside, the human moved among the refugees, checking injuries, whispering reassurance, offering soft laughter where fear had been. Every glance carried weight, every word carried hope. The alien watched, chest tight with awe. For centuries, its race had measured survival with fleets, with strategy, with cold calculation. Humans did not follow rules, they rewrote them. They did not surrender to probability, it. A sudden alert shattered the calm. Sensors flared with activity, an enemy fleet larger than any before closing in at impossible speed. Panic began to ripple through the vessel. Froze, fear threatened to consume them, and the human smiled. "They think they can stop us," he said quietly, voice steady. "They've forgotten who we are." The alien felt something stir, a mixture of disbelief, admiration, and something deeper it had no name for. Humans were not just survivors. They were catalysts, forces of change. They acted when others calculated. They persevered when others surrendered. They fought because they refused to do anything else. The first strike hit. Explosions tore across the void, shaking the vessel violently. Alarms screamed. Fires erupted. And yet the human moved like a conductor of impossible chaos, guiding humans and alike with precision, improvisation, and audacity. "Use the debris," he shouted. "Flank them, distract, don't let them predict us." The alien tried to calculate outcomes, but probability crumbled. Humans did not fight by logic. They fought by courage, by defiance, by will. Every maneuver, every counter, every act of bravery reshaped the battlefield. In the corridors, fires raged. One of the youngest humans screamed as debris fell. Without hesitation, the human dove lifting the metal with a strength born of desperation. "Not today," he muttered, eyes blazing, and somehow courage spread, infecting every survivor. Fear became fuel, doubt became momentum, hopelessness became opportunity. The battle stretched across hours. The enemy fleet was relentless, but humans were unstoppable. Improvised weapons, daring maneuvers, and sheer will turn the tide. Every setback became a lesson, every challenge a spark. Even the alien, seasoned by centuries of warfare and exile, watched in awe. Humans did not merely survive, they inspired, they transformed chaos into triumph. Finally, the last wave of enemy ships battered and bewildered. The vessel humans were bloodied, bruised, exhausted, but alive, triumphant, unbroken. The human leaned against a console, catching his breath. "They'll be back," he said softly, "but next time we'll be ready, we always are." The alien approached, voice trembling. "You risked everything, all of you could have died." The human shook his head, eyes steady. "Maybe, but we didn't, and that's what matters. Every life saved, every act of courage, every choice we make, it counts. Extinction isn't a sentence, it's a challenge, and we will never stop proving it." The alien felt a deep shift in its understanding. Humans were not measured by strength alone. They were measured by will, courage, and audacity. Where logic demanded caution, humans acted. Where probability predicted failure, humans created victory. Where others faltered, humans persisted. The vessel drifted toward a distant star system, carrying life, hope, and the stubborn, relentless spirit of humanity across the void. The human stood at the bridge, silhouetted against the stars, and for a moment the universe seemed to pause. "They told us we were extinct," he murmured almost to himself. "They said survival was impossible, but we're here, we're alive, and we're not done yet." The alien looked on, finally understanding. This one human embodied the essence of an entire species, unrelenting courage, audacious hope, and the refusal to bow to inevitability. The survival of its race, the rekindling of the defiance against annihilation, It all rested on humans, on this human, on the indomitable spirit that refused to be broken. As the stars stretched endlessly beyond the vessel, the human turned, eyes gleaming with quiet certainty. Extinction, not today, not ever. And the alien finally comprehended the truth that had eluded its people for centuries. Humans did not merely endure. Humans transformed survival into art, fear into fuel, and hopelessness into triumph. Humans were unstoppable, not because they were invincible, but because they refused to quit. The vessel sailed on, battered but alive. The galaxy around them was vast, dark, and indifferent, yet inside that fragile hull life endured, hope endured, courage endured, and humanity, tiny, fragile, unyielding, carried within it the power to challenge the stars themselves. The human gazed at the horizon, voice soft but unwavering. We'll rebuild, we'll fight, we'll survive, because that's what humans do, and as long as we exist, the universe will never forget us. The alien finally spoke, voice trembling with awe. They are extraordinary, beyond anything I've ever seen. The human smiled, wiping grime from his hands. Extraordinary? Maybe, or maybe we're just human, and humans never quit. The stars stretched on, infinite and silent, and somewhere across the void a dying race found hope, not in technology, not in fleets, not in probability, but in humanity itself. One species, one human, one small, extraordinary spark that refused to die. And in that refusal, the universe shifted, ever so slightly, toward something better.